welcome to Buzz Talk Live. My guest tonight is an author of Defend America Freedom, the Courtroom Revolution Handbook, a private citizen that has written this book to help every American understand their rights and show them how to be aware of predators and parasites rising up to high-ranking positions in our government and civil communities. He clearly outlines what we can all do to protect ourselves and how we can live by our God-given right to be free. Also joining us tonight is For God and Country, a friend of the author and the writer of the foreword of the book. As we are about to change presidents once again, with our civil liberties being threatened, uprisings and protests and large-scale media fraud, we thought tonight's guest might help us all feel a little safer, a bit more confident, and still proud to be an American citizen by showing us how to defend our freedom. So please use your chats and welcome a private citizen and For God and Country to Buzz Talk Live. How you doing, guys?
Well, thank you very much for having us. That's quite an introduction. I appreciate you having me on the show here and with my friend here who wrote the foreword. And I thank him for making the connection here so that we can share this with your audience.
Yeah, by all means. I mean, it's a fascinating book, and I haven't read the whole thing, but from what I read in the beginning, it really struck a chord because you really take it back to the history of our country and how things were primarily set up, for government control of people's lives, basically, and from what I read, and please, I want For God and Country to come in here to say hi. I don't want to leave him out there in the cold.
Really about the book, it's about the book. It's about education. I'm glad you could work this out. I appreciated you the last time you put me on, and we talked about some things, and we got a few hits back from that. That was good. So this is really about the book.
People, right? It's all about enlightening the public out there, and trying to do our little bit to raise awareness to certain things that maybe some people are just not aware of, and that's why we have.
Do you want to read the slide, or do you want me to read the slide?
I want you to read the slide because, For God and Country, I'm going to put your slide up here because I want you to describe this to the audience. I mean,
John Henry Clark. I mean, everybody, it's an easy Google or whatever. Powerful people cannot afford to educate the people they oppress, because once you are truly educated, you will not ask for the power. You will take it. So this is really about taking back and educating ourselves as to how to protect our goods, what we've worked our entire life for, and be able to respond properly with kindness and understanding the law and properly doing so.
It's so important, and I'm so glad that the author's here. A private citizen is here to describe the book, and obviously we're not going to get through the whole book tonight. It's in upwards about 500 pages long, and let me just put the book up here, and you have the front there and the back cover with the America's Creed on there. Do you want to speak to that? And why you chose to put that on the back cover?
Well, that was a quick decision. I was in a rapid publication process, and I didn't have my testimonials lined up to put on the back of the book. So I thought that would probably be adequate, and I find it's a bit appropriate too. I have the Pledge of Allegiance as the last page, and then right before that I have the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence. It's all towards there, indexed in the back of the book for easy reference.
I noticed in the beginning of the book you dedicate the book to your father, and how did your father play a role in you constructing the book and getting it out there?
Well, I guess I'm kind of a bit of a product of the 60s, late 60s, right? My dad was a Vietnam vet, and he came back injured from the war, and he had seen some things from the inside that would be shocking to the conscience, to say
Yeah.
the least. But that everything didn't seem to be what it was on the surface. And back then, everybody just trusted the government and trusted everything they saw in the media. And when he came back, he got married and had a family, and
Right.
he educated me a little bit different than the average child, to be a bit more of a problem solver, a scientific mind, and to you know try to be part of the solution.
Right.
So at the same time, that whole era, every family was a shambles. And so for a lifetime of asking questions, what on earth, why is this American society so twisted out when it seems like it shouldn't be?
Hmm.
It seems like everything should be cool, but it seems like everybody's family's trashed. Okay.
It's funny,
So
but
this
when
is
we're growing
really
up,
what this is
um,
really what ties that preface together. That's I just kind of want to throw that in there.
yeah, no, what I was going to tie a ribbon on it was that, growing up as kids, obviously we learn from our elders and our parents and the experiences that they've, come to have in growing up. And they're our teacher, as far as learning this kind of stuff. And until you go to school, but that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, I mean, it's a great history lesson that you can learn from your dad, especially, wartime, serving, our country and all that. Um,
Yeah, and
so
in combination with a good civics class, I had a good civics teacher that actually taught this stuff.
yeah,
You know,
are they
and they
around
don't.
today? I don't think they're around today.
Well, I mean, they don't teach this stuff anymore. It was a
No,
careful. It was gradual and carefully crafted crossover of changing of what the kids receive in school, so they don't know who they are and what their nationality is, or what their position in relationship in society is.
right.
They don't know. They're completely disoriented. Whereas when I was growing up, I knew I was American. I knew we had a constitution. I knew there was rights. I knew that our founding fathers, what they did. You know, I just come from like probably the trail end of when they used to teach that stuff.
Yeah. The beginning of the book lends itself to the history of our country, and speaking to basically the Revolutionary War, and I think it touches on the Civil War too, but it concentrates on how things were set up as far as um, the all the societies, all the beginning of those societies, the secret
Right. Well,
societies.
it goes way back, like, okay, to Noah's other son, Nimrod, right? He started the Babylonian Empire, right? And that was an idolatrous empire. That's where the world magics come from, right? The devil's magic, the stuff that's of the world, not of the spiritual world, not of the relationship with God, but of the relationship with money and wealth,
Right.
right? So that's been a cult that's been going on for a long time, and it's just changed its branding over the millennium, right? But it's still the same opponent, and that opponent is there to distract people from God and from their natural position in nature, where
Hmm.
they can actually live in and express their own sovereignty and good conscience.
Um, you speak about the Masonry, being a Freemason in this book. Um, my dad,
Not me,
my
not
dad was a
me.
Mason in this. No, I'm saying when I say
Right,
you speak to it, but you compiled information to put in the book about Freemasonry and how it played a role in leading up to where we are today, with these secret societies and all that. But just I was going to say, growing up, my dad was a Mason, and back in the '70s, what did I know? My dad's part of this club or whatever. I didn't think much of it. And but it seemed harmless. It seemed it was a good bunch of fellas that got together. I wasn't privy to go to any of the installations or anything like that. But I mean, I I just took it at face value, and it seemed to be okay by me. You hear about secret handshakes, you hear about all these things that the Masons have that they go through the third degree, and I don't want to go on to it, but you know my dad was a great dad, and and I don't want to tarnish anybody that's been a part of that. But I think what the book talks about is earlier on, and the people of high influence in our country that were part of these organizations, that were the driving force of I guess would you like to say bad of the bad part of these organizations or
I believe that
society?
our founding fathers were trying to split away from and separate away from the dark um, cult. That I believe that's why they set up the Constitution. They set up the
Right.
Constitution so strong and so powerfully with so many checks, so many balances. The way they set things up in America was so carefully thought out because they were trying to get themselves across the pond, away from these occultists that were running everything for thousands
That's
of
right.
years.
That's right.
They were trying to get away from them, and they learned their tricks enough, and they were in the same clubs.
Hmm.
But I believe that they got together over here trying to create something new that was like more of a impenetrable fortress, so that when they knew that when these people were going to come over here and try to infiltrate and take over everything, that there would at least be some way that we could retain some cultural integrity.
Right. And it
Because
points out
because
it point
the occultists are pushing the atheistic communism, and that's a total destruction of everything that has to do with personality and relationship and happiness.
Yeah, and it's all in there. You speak to Karl Marx in the 1842 Communist Manifesto. You talk about false dogma. The rule of law, the Illuminati, the secret society of 1776. I mean, it's all in there. It's all, and it's a great read as far as information wise, and anybody that picks up the book. And it's an easy read, even for me. I mean, I picked it up and I was flying through the pages there, skimming through them, and there's parts where you have to slow down and really take it all in, and I found it very very interesting. So yeah, I mean, like just getting back and finishing up on the Masons, but there was some prominent people that were part of that organization. You got Ben Franklin, George Washington, Da Vinci, and Lincoln, to name a few. You know.
Yeah, I think it was integrated as part of what would be considered uh, back in the day
Right.
civilized society. That if you were in that club, you were on the in club, you were civilized. And I think that was just a standard. Like slave owners back then were slave owners. It was just like,
Right.
okay, what
Right.
kind of car do you have? It's like, do you have a BMW? You have like a Volkswagen? It's so the point being is that Christendom is about peace, love, and forgiveness, right? Real Christian ethics,
Mm-hmm.
Christian values, love, appreciation, right? There may be some people that are trying to really appreciate the teachings of Jesus Christ and experiencing heaven on earth, really living peacefully, living tranquilly, living out of love and compassion, understanding that nature, right? Their kingdom of heaven, right?
Right. Right.
And then there's these other people that are envious of God, and they blaspheme and they try to do corrupt stuff, and that's just they pack together in their covens, and that's not cool. All right, well, they've been doing that for a long time,
Yep.
and they just keep changing their branding, right? And if people don't understand that that's really what's been going on in the background, they're not gonna grasp what's going on in their lives, because it's all been going on for so long. But it's a matter of taking the red pill and opening your eyes to it. Just the whole enchilada, man. It's everything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
getting from the preface, knowing it's like, okay, well, what do we got to? The reason I wrote the preface to talk about who they are, what's going on over there with them, and why is it like this?
Hmm.
Why does it seem all oppressive? Science fiction is because we need to know if we're going to defend American freedom, we need to know what we're defending American freedom from,
Right. Right.
right, and why. So that
So
preface is there. Otherwise, it's just a handbook on how to know the law, and it's not just a handbook on how to know the law. It's
and and this is the snapshot from the book that I'm putting up now, so the viewers can see this, and I love this. Well, the first paragraph is powerful, but the second paragraph really tenses where we are here today. Where you know like it says there, innocent bystanders, you have been plugged into the system, memorized by the media, and pacifying yourself with games, entertainment, and cheap plastic junk from China. So true. I mean, and you're being blinded by really the reality of what's taken place, and unfortunately, you know, uh, this year, this 2021 is culmination of a lot of these things. You know.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, behind everybody's eyes, people like there's people that are banking on birth certificates and trading them on the stock market.
yeah.
While people are buying cheap, working their jobs and doing cheap plastic junk, there's all kinds of things going on with their registered security that their parents registered for them at the hospital.
Yeah.
You know, how deep does that rabbit hole go? Does anybody want to know who's pulling the strings behind their paperwork? Wouldn't it be
Speak
better?
to that a little bit
Wouldn't
more
it
in
be better to
detail.
pull your own strings? They pull your own strings behind your own paperwork. How about that?
Yeah, speak to that a little bit more in detail, would you, about being born in America and being nationalized here in America, where other people are not. And
Well, it's just pretty standard internationally. Okay, so what we want to understand is the nature of law, and we can get into that, but it's really a lot easier if I just break it down and like, okay, in the Constitution they give you basically four kinds of courts, and then beyond that it's like military tribunals and the legislatures. So the four kinds of courts are criminal, civil, maritime, and admiralty. Well, criminal is like where somebody, like gets in a fight and they break somebody's leg or whatever, so they smash somebody, like there's a victim, right?
right,
Okay, that's a criminal court. That's like common law, like breaking the, like doing to others kind of stuff. So then there's civil law, right, which is contracts, agreements, right, between people. Like you make an agreement, and then somebody like just does he falls short on the agreement, and then you got to like litigate it out. You got to talk to somebody about it, right? That's an
right,
agreement.
right,
Okay. So those are a couple kinds of courts, right? But then what are the cops using, right? They're not using either of those. And this is why people don't understand why the courts don't work for them, right? They're using a different kind of law. They're using shipping law. They're using maritime law, right? And the only thing they recognize is everything is like shipments. And so everything's just bills of ladings for shipments. So they're using shipping law. And their cars are ships and the roads are extensions of the waterways. So it's all under shipping law, under maritime, right? And then that maritime's internationally standardized under the Uniform Commercial Code. So, right, there's a maritime law that they're in. And if the people don't recognize that they're in maritime law,
right, right.
and they use maritime law in the maritime courts, then they're going to get some results, but they're not going to get any results trying to do constitutional law in a maritime court. They're not going to get any results trying to do criminal law in a maritime court, because the maritime court have maritime administrative procedures. They're just going to steamroll
Now
because they're just
you
efficient.
break this down in the book. I mean,
Yeah, simple.
yeah. I mean, you get into all these things, and we're going to touch on a little bit of that here tonight. Um, you know, I'll bring one up right now. As far as getting pulled over, and this is an image from the book. Um, Not everybody knows what to say to the policeman out there when you get pulled over. And losing, and this goes with consent too, as far as losing your rights and all that.
Yeah. Well, consent, that's entrance into a contract. But what you got to understand is in shipping law, we got to go back to shipping law because they're in shipping law, okay? It's not just like, getting pulled over. That's just like the Sanford and Son version of it, or, or I'm not trying to be derogatory in any respect, but geez, come on, people. This
Right.
is actually procedural. and the procedure dude's using is authorized under maritime law. He's getting insurance. He's getting a paycheck. He's on the clock, so he's functioning in the capacity of a corporation employee, and that corporation is an extension of the United States corporation. So this is maritime shipping law that he's doing, right? So he's a captain of one ship pulling over a captain of another ship, or firing a shot
Right.
across the bow to say, "Hey, we got to chat," and then they pull up together, right, like that, and then one contract, what happens is when two ships on the sea pass, one has a cargo of coffee and the other one has a cargo of like tobacco, and they'd be like, "Hey, I got tobacco, you got coffee. Hey, I got coffee, you got tobacco." The captain with the first um, contract offer, right? That contract offer, right?
Right.
That first piece of paper, contract offer question, that is the original jurisdiction. So if the cop asks a question and the guy in the seat answers the question, then he's entered into the contract under the jurisdiction of the captain of the other ship, which is maritime ship, and it's under admiralty law. So he's been captured on the other ship, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that sounds dumb, but it's the way it really works. So on the other side, right? So instead of answering the question of the cop, right, you present a counter contract that has different terms, and then the cop has to enter that contract. He's on the clock or walk away from it.
Um, this show we do some chats, and a couple of chats came in. One in particular from Blake Gordon. I don't know if you know that gentleman, but nice to have the real deal and truth out there. That's pretty powerful in it to itself. Um, One of our viewers looking in there.
Oh, did he say that?
Nice to have. It says nice to have the real deal and truth out there.
Oh, well done. Well, thanks for, it takes one to know one. You know what I mean? Because, if someone is just doesn't want to see it, I don't know what to say. There's like, don't even bother because it's just going to be a waste of energy. But if someone
Yeah.
wants to see it, it's there. And this is why I put this book together, because we need a place where it's all in one place. It's
Right.
not a bunch of pieces you got to find all over the. I've been doing that for the last 50 years of my life or whatever. Is asking these questions. Why is it all goofy?
Right.
And
Right.
bits
Right.
and pieces of it coming to me over the years in different freaking science fiction books and different bits and pieces and connections of information, and it all tends to like line up and corroborate into something that is going to work for us.
So
What is going to
over the years, did you compile all this information and jot it down
I
and
did it because
thought
I
one
can't.
day that, hey, I'm going to write a book about this? Did you?
No, I was gonna be like, okay, one, I'm like, I can't remember all this stuff.
Yeah, of
I
course
had
not.
to write a book.
I can't remember
I
like
can't
last
remember
night.
all this stuff in my head, all these different codes and everything like
Yeah,
that. Although I know how to use them,
sure.
I had to write it down somewhere, right? To memorize it, you got to write it down. So I started writing stuff down. But at the same time, this little old lady that I took art class with, she was the cutest little thing. She was a motorcycle grandma, and she loved to ride the motorcycle. And she lived out in Tucson, and she saw them black helicopters flying over the sky, and she thought it was going to be the end of the world kind of thing. She says,
Oh boy.
we really gotta, you gotta tell people about this. You really gotta help people, because people gotta know about this stuff. And
Sure.
I'm like, oh,
Sure.
okay. Well, the little old biker mama lady, told me I should write this book because she's scared of the black helicopters flying over. And I'm like, oh lordy, it's well, publish. It could get the word out, and it could actually help establish balance. Because if people don't understand what's going on and how their perspective of reality has been undermined, right? Then they're not going to have a chance to reorient,
Right.
right? We all know that our perspective of reality has been undermined, and we don't know to what extent or by how far. But if you connect all the dots and you can see it, then you can see the picture, and it's like seeing the Matrix. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden, it's like, oh, it's all of it, the whole thing. All
Yeah.
right, and then
Yeah.
you start actually having power over your life, because then you don't know, you realize where you've given up power of your life in all these other areas.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, that later in life you learn these things, and it's like, and you always catch yourself saying, "Gee, if I would have known this in my 20s or something like that,"
Yeah.
But
So
it's
all
so
you young
true.
kids
It's so true.
listen to the voice of experience. If we had what we had, if you, if you know what I'm saying, if we had what you have right here in your hands with our age, oh my gosh, it'd
Right?
be a whole different set of
It's true.
criteria to work with.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I know. I just want to get back to Forgotten Country. I didn't forget about you.
No, I'm enjoying every minute of this.
But you wrote the foreword of the book, and I want to
Well, I'm
kind of
gonna
get your perspective of what you think as you were writing that foreword, how that all came to be.
Well, we had been talking for some time, and I had reached out because I had run across his website and ordered some things, then reached out, and lo and behold, I got a phone call.
Excuse me.
So when I got the call, I was like, all right, so look, I'm in this situation. I want to do things right. I don't want to screw anything up.
Right.
And we talked for better than a year. Um, and we got to a point where we were kind of like driving each other into looking for more with respect to helping others and doing the right thing no matter what, under any circumstance,
Hard to
whatever
publish.
comes. And
Hard to
he had
publish.
published, right, and he was published before, but in a different way. So
Right.
when he got to a point, and you can ask him, I mean, he got to a point where he said, do you want to write the foreword? And I was like, okay, I've been writing a lot of stuff for a long time, but it's all sitting in a file. So I took a crack at it, and lo and behold, it, with the exception of I think one error in the print that I noticed the other day, we should talk about that. Regardless of that, it was a great inspiration, and I think we inspired each other throughout this whole process. And I went to work day and night for 2 weeks straight, and he was going to work day and night for I don't know how many days until he had this redone to where it was as tight as it is. And then that's how we got to this point, and I'm honored to be involved in every way. And that's the
Well, I
story.
mean, look, it's you call it a handbook, and it is, and it's a pretty thick handbook, but it's a handbook that's going to help people out there to defend their freedom, and they get into situations in their life, and you're quick to call a lawyer, or you're quick to do something that you're not thinking correctly at the moment, and it could actually be not beneficial for you to do that. You talk about the law is there to protect you in the book, so speak to that while I put up the book flyer, by the way.
Yeah. Okay. So first, I wanna speak to getting out of situations. It's like, well, here's the situation: is some people get themselves in situations, and it's like, why would you get yourself in a situation in the
Right.
first place?
Yeah.
Okay, it's about
You
careful
dummy.
use of the mind. Like it's just the secret to life and all that stuff. You read Napoleon Hill, it's about the correct usage of the mind. So if you're using your mind correctly, you won't get yourself in goofy situations. But sometimes the propaganda that we've been exposed to, like it's got these stains in it, and people can be influenced by the propaganda to think themselves into goofy situations, right? Okay, so then there's the goofy situations. How do you deal with that? Well, you get the book ahead of time and you read it ahead of time.
Yeah.
I explain how some of these goofy situations can go down, and how to, like, so to speak, Houdini out of some goofy situations. But if you read the book ahead of time, you can actually conceptualize not getting into the goofy situations in the first place, so that you're pretty much under the radar as far as not making any waves, and not standing out, and not putting your estate at risk or any of your property at risk, or you know it's more about like not standing out like a sore thumb, and being
Right.
angry at the enemy out there.
Right.
That's not going to do you any good. Just being
Now,
angry at
have
the
you
enemy
had
out
any
there.
real
It's
life?
better to get your estate in order.
I'm sorry. Say again.
Better to get your state in order than trying to
Yes.
say, oh, woe is me, I'm the victim, oh, the big
Right.
bad enemy.
Right. Right. Well,
That's
that
not
seems like the world today. Everybody yells
right.
victim.
Right. That's exactly. They trained everybody to be and a helpless victim. So
Right.
that's what I put in the book is the knowledge and the information that helps us like reverse engineer that help us victim
Right.
consciousness, looking at the government as somebody else and actually standing in your own integrity on the right side of the law, so that you can if you know the law, right,
Hmm.
then and you know how the law applies to them. It doesn't apply to the people. The law applies to the people that are on the clock. The people on the clock are the agents of the vessels of the United States, right?
Right.
They're all
Right.
subsidiaries. They're all on the clock.
Right.
Those people on the clock, that's who the law applies to, right? And if you know the law and you know what law applies to the people on the clock, then you could talk to them like they're on the clock and that the law applies to them. And when you
Now,
talk to them on the clock and the law applies to them, then they start behaving like they're on the clock and the law applies to them.
uh, can you speak to any personal situations that you were in that this book how comes into play?
That book is a byproduct of all the situations I've been in. I didn't write the book
That's
first.
it.
That's it. Show over.
That's it. Come on. No, look, hey, maybe that was the wrong choice of words, being personal.
I
um,
mean, I've lived in alternative.
Maybe you should tell him the story about the part in the book that just give a little excerpt from that. Where you got pulled over and
The Oklahoma guys are stupid, right? These Oklahoma cops are I mean, I'm sorry, man, but if you're an Oklahoma cop, dude, you're like, you asked for it. My God, I can't believe how these guys behave. They just, I guess, can't help but to pull cars over on the I-40 and try and throw everything out of the car. And they say these stupid things, right? They say this stupid little mind game thing, and it's always the same little mind game. It says, well, what was it? But some guy, I said, so, oh, there's something odd. Something odd. We were in a rental van. It was brand new. There was nothing in the van.
well,
Second cop comes up and he said, "There's something odd." I'm like, "Is that procedural or statutory?"
oh boy.
can you imagine being the cop and the guy in the car with the dread says something to you?
I got the son to camera and the guy with the dogs. The good thing the dogs are running around the van. He opened the van. It's completely empty. There's a
Put that graphic up where the van and the cop with the dog. Put that graphic up. The other one.
Oh, let me see. The van and the cop.
Oh yeah, the van and the dog.
Let's see, what's that? Was it this one?
Yep.
There it is.
Yeah.
What's
So
it say? It says, "Okay, you can search me, or you can search." What does it say? I can't remember.
I can't. I'm sorry, I can't read it.
You can search the van, but you're not going to find anything.
So that's giving up consent. That's allowing him access. That's
right. Yeah, and most people are like, okay, you can search it. And that was the funniest one, though. It's when you got a van full of stuff. Full of junk, and then they go throwing it all out of the side of the highway. Am I done with it?
only to find nothing in the end and be pissed off.
We have a chat from Adam Skinner.
Okay.
Shout out, great job, you guys. And he's going to pick up the book. So there you go.
Cool.
You
if you go to courtroom-revolution.com, you'll get a coupon code automatically added to your shopping cart, so you get a discount on the book. It's courtroom-revolution.com.
There it is, there.
It may be 500 pages, but I hope you enjoy it. I made it to be 500 pages of pure entertainment.
No, like I said, I mean, it's an easy read. It's not like law and you're talking about certain things.
It's infectious. You just want to keep reading.
But because it unfolds a lot of truths out there, and look, it's all about we the people, and we have to we have to emphasize on that because and you could speak to this because we're in control of them. They're not in control of us.
Yes, this is really what got switcherooed through all of the fucking, pardon my language, okay, all the BS science fiction, totalitarian nightmare
Right.
propaganda stuff, turning it around like the socialism as if the government is something other than the people. It's those guys, it's those departments, it's those agencies. That's the government, and well,
Right.
one big old octopus thing. And it's like, no, well, they're all a bunch of different stores that are all interconnected, yeah. And it's like whatever. But really, the government is us, okay?
Yeah.
We're the people. And when a person
I think that's where it says
recognizes
"we the
that,
people" on the top there.
that changes everything. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, that means me. I'm self-governing.
Put that
But
book back up. Put that little book that you got that slide.
Oh yes, the Constitution.
I give these out all the time.
Yeah, that's great.
so
It's
yeah,
a
I
little.
include that in the back of the book, plus an index of all of the laws that apply to them. While they're on the clock, there's laws that apply to them, and unfortunately, they are going around breaking the laws that apply to them. And this is a thing that concerns me, because there's laws that on a captain of a ship on the waterways can't just roam around committing piracy, human trafficking, and kidnapping. And those
Yeah.
are laws. And if we examine the whole situation, that a captain of a ship on the clock, on a vessel that is and acting in the capacity of a vessel of the United States, right, an extension of the United States corporation on the waterways,
Right.
that those laws of human trafficking, piracy, and kidnapping would indeed apply to that employee on the clock. And if we examine this at face value, and we look at it from the correct approach, then we can actually understand what's been going on in this country, and
Uh,
the bamboozle that's happened to the people, and how to turn this around.
you speak to protection of privacy, the laws, the codes, the treaties, the executive orders, and all this. Where the government yet again, sets the mark for all of us. And how can we protect?
That government stuff again. The government sets the mark for all of us. What do you mean by the government sets the mark for all of us? Let's roll back on what I just
Yeah,
said.
right.
Uh,
Well,
okay, you see how that indoctrination is so, it runs so deep, you just automatically expect it's an us and
I
them
just
scenario.
blurted it out there.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. That's
it's like, it's us, yeah, we're the kings and those are the servants, man. They like work for us, right?
Right.
If you think about paying the utility company, like those are the poor beggars that sit behind desks that beg a tithe once a month. Like if you change your perspective, right, it all makes a lot more sense. Those people are the employees that are like scavenging and begging for a living. They're the poor
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
They're not the sovereigns. They're the public servants, right? So the people are the government. So if we just get to a different state, look at it from a
It,
different
it's a
perspective,
it's
we can
it's a
separate
it's a
ourselves out
reset.
from
It's a
paper.
reset that everybody has to, um, you know, read this book, so you're enlightened of how to reset your life and how to reset your thoughts on our government and our
Yeah,
world.
recalibrate. I don't want. I like. Ooh, not great. Like not reset.
Yeah, reset is
Recalibrate.
too matrix, right? It's
Recalibrate to the way
recalibrate.
that it was like meant to be, so you have the right
Yeah.
perspective, and then you can privatize your name, privatize your home, privatize your estate, privatize your cars,
Right.
privatize
Right.
everything, so that it's not all in the public view, and it's not all vulnerable, like all
Right.
I mean, it's just private education, right? Like think public, we don't like disengage yourself from the public sector, because the public sector is like companies that are on the stock market. It's
Right.
like it's
Right.
being a public entity is being a corporation. It's like, no, you're not a public entity, you're a living entity.
And again, this goes back. I'm going to say it again, but in history, this goes back to, to this to the you know to the Revolutionary War, and England and how things were set back then. I mean, look at the post office, right? The post office was, and I just learned this tonight. The post office was set by England. I mean,
Right.
and how all that was created,
Yeah,
and
yeah. The post office is like really responsible for all the shipments, right? Like all the
yeah,
registration of all the shipments between ports, right? And so that's maritime law. So the post office plays an important role in what government and what the courts and the legal system is about, because it's really about the mail must get delivered.
Right.
The interference with the delivery of the mail is what maritime is what admiralty law is about. Is if anybody interferes with the delivery of the mail, that's where military enforcement can come in, and
Right.
that's admiralty law, is protecting the mail shipments. So if a person is acting in the capacity of cargo on a ship like a cattle,
Mm-hmm.
right, and they try to interfere with that shipment, then that's where the enforcement comes in, because that cattle is trying to escape out of the herd. Okay.
Ne-
But if you're not cattle and you're actually a living man, and you're functioning in the capacity of a living man as a captain of your own ship
right.
on the land, um, then you're not functioning in the capacity of a piece of cattle in a herd. And you have to take the initiative to not function in the capacity of a piece of cattle in a herd by default. You have to recognize that that's how they
Right.
do it, because people don't give a rat's ass who they are. They're just waiting for the handout from the government.
And
As
you
soon as
would think,
they who they are, they can take a step outside of it with knowledge.
just going back to the post office, how after all these years have gone by, all these years, decades, you know, why didn't it transfer over to email? We got email now. I mean, why do we have to have the post
Because
office?
it's our three-dimensional tangible means. Like it's the whole pivot of the entire commercial world.
Yeah.
The ability to deliver packages is the entire pivot of the entire commercial world. Everything revolves around that commerce. This goes way, way, way back, thousands of years. This is the standards of a commercial civilization. Like people as chattel, like the
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
enchilada, man. Like civilizations have been dominated and conquered and raised up and torn down, and for millenniums and tens of thousands of years, right? This stuff goes way back. This is nothing new what they're doing right now. It's just a different branding,
Yeah. Exactly.
right? And so, fortunately, we have some divine inheritance to intelligence and a conduit of power that's associated with the usage of that intelligence. And when we use our intelligence, we can and ask the right questions, then we can
Mm.
disengage from, like, we could transfer ourselves outside of that state of being, which is basically dissociated and a slave and being governed by somebody else, to being associated with God and a servant, and being governed by being answerable or subject to, so to speak, natural law, because you're in alignment. You're not running
Right.
around like causing grief to everything around you because you're just a voracious appetite.
What else do we not get to here? I think we didn't talk about the cat's out of the bag. This is another graphic from the book. And again, it's in the beginning of the
I
book,
love it.
but it kind of
This means that this information is now accessible. It means that this is not the like this is not the debut of the information, or of
right.
a version of
It's
this
been
book.
it's been out there,
This
but you're compiling.
this is more and more people know about the principles that we break down in the book.
Right.
Um, and that means that I believe we've reaching, if not, we have already reached a critical mass, and all we have to do is maintain the vibration of consciousness. And I'm not trying to be all woo woo about this, but we maintain the vibration of consciousness of the people understanding who they are, that they're the government. The government isn't something else, and it's our responsibility as the government to do the right thing and defend American freedom.
Yeah.
And this book is the means, right? The means by which I've been able to do this for me and my family and my friends and my followers or whatever's that have learned, basically how to privatize their
Hmm.
lives. So it's about, you know
Yeah.
ultimately private learning how the law works, learning how to keep them on their side of the law, and privatizing yourself so you could be in a different area that's not, so to speak, it's privatized. You don't have AI crawling over all over it and all that stuff.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's you. you definitely, you go through it, and the book. This is great. I mean, you got these little vignettes and little sketches, and it really, and this is the book. This is how the book is constructed, and it's an easy read. The information's there for you. Let me put the flyer up again so people can see it. And you can pick this up at Amazon, right? You can any.
Yeah, if you go to the Courtroom Revolution, right? Courtroom-revolution.com, that you get $5 off the book. You get a coupon
Oh,
code in the
nice.
shop, right? So it's $40 at Amazon, but it'll be like 35 over there, and with free shipping
Yeah,
too.
nice, nice. And I think you get the digital copy right away, right? Is that right?
Yeah, as soon as you buy the book, we don't make you wait. We give you access to a digital copy
Digital
so
copy,
that you can download the digital version of the book
right? Yeah,
for your
it's
reading
While
pleasure.
the book is coming in the mail, so
Yeah.
that's
right.
just
So you can start reading it right away, and you can brush up on your civics class that you should have had taught to you the correct way.
I had a class called Society in the City in my hometown,
Uh-huh.
and that teacher was the most send home teacher when it comes to patriotism and doing proper civics, and it's too bad I was too young to understand and take it inside.
Right.
I'd be 10 times further down the road than I am now. I mean, as far as
It's always when you get older and you have responsibilities, you have family, and you work, and this is when all this stuff really comes into play for you.
Yeah.
But when you're a teenager and a young nothing, you're just what are you doing? You're playing with your friends. You're there, and you're growing up and enjoying life. But it's something to be said to have you know I sound like my dad. These kids today, but it's true. The
That's
kid, but the kids today should really learn this stuff, and you become a better citizen for it, knowing what this book can teach you, and as you go through life and as you get your responsibilities and continue on, this all will come into play, and knowing what to do when you have to do it, yeah, yeah, no, this is really good. Um, but and again, the book. What else do you want to emphasize that the book can teach you as far as
Well, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, as far as the civil stuff and obviously, but
you know,
what else is there?
I was going to suggest something. I don't think people understand completely what it is to be completely, utterly in charge of your own body, period. So maybe you can speak to that. How is it that you could take charge of your vessel?
Um, well, if you recognize that in maritime law there are particular provisions, right? So on the one hand, yes, there's provisions in law. No
Mhm.
problem. This law says that has to apply, and this law says that has to apply. Okay, so we could talk about that. But what it really comes down to is it's a dispositional thing with the self and God, right? Because natural law and natural order comes in alignment with our ultimate relationship with God. Okay, so if a person they got a wonky relationship with God, right? They're on the fringe of falling under the pagan jurisdiction.
Mhm.
The pagan jurisdiction is jurisdiction of idolatry, where you don't. It's not the same set of laws. The people that are all branded up and all out of alignment, and they're not in alignment with their noble purpose with God, they're going to be all wonky and convoluted, and their purpose isn't going to be quite right. So they're going to be causing grief in the world somehow, disrupting things
Right.
with
Into
their
themselves.
weird appetite, right? Okay. So the pagans and the atheists, I'm sorry if this hurts anybody's feelings, but let's get real on this, right? They're not in alignment with the natural order of things. They're denying the original cause of all causes, or the person who's really set this wonderful playground up for them, and they're being victim consciousness or nihilistic or envious or whatever it is that's not in alignment, right? And there's natural laws. There's going to be consequences for the improper use of the mind. So paganism, this whole maritime system is set up to basically, deal with commerce, and of course you got to deal with livestock, because if you're
Right.
behaving like animals, they're livestock. My God, they're not even smart enough to think about how they could be making some money with the rest of us over here. Okay, maybe they didn't want to. Okay, but nevertheless, life is full of choices.
Mm-hmm.
So if people are going to behave like barbarians, right? Then there has to be and disconnected from Christ and God and good conscience and forgiveness or whatever's. If they're going to be pagan and self-serving, that's an entirely different jurisdiction where they actually have to be taken care of like livestock.
And if anybody thinks that what he's saying is not in the law, it is. So
I
if
mean,
that,
you got to look at the Holy Bible. There's the law right there. Oh, this is what it all says in the Holy Bible. Well, if you don't listen to the Holy Bible, then you haven't read the actual natural law book. So then you fall into the jurisdiction over here, the pagan laws over here, because you don't belong to God. You belong to a local scam.
Right.
Right? It's
Right.
just a matter of where's your head at. If your head's with God, then you can be under the natural law and in alignment, and then you can recognize where inside of the pagan law or inside the maritime law there are provisions that honor and acknowledge the natural law. So if you're actually in the natural law and you use those particular sections of the Uniform Commercial Code that says this part of this section says that the Uniform Commercial Code must be in compliance with the common law, and that
Uh,
this preserves the rights of the individual at the common law of the common law rights of the individual. Now there's a provision in the maritime law for a person to be standing right with God. But if they're not standing right with God, good luck with anything else working for you in the first place. So it's like I put strong emphasis on like, okay, you know what? Do you deserve to be sovereign and self-governing if you're not in alignment with natural law and
we have a
standing right with
chat. We have a chat that came in from Chad Ekloff. Good stuff. The biggest flaw with all laws is that they are merely ideas that are parties under the law must agree to follow.
yeah.
Without everyone on the same page, they break down quickly.
Yeah, I
And that,
agree with that.
you know, that's speaks to what's going on right now, I think, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. I believe there's a natural order of things that everybody just doesn't have any choice but to agree with, because that's the original nature of the original person who, the grand designer of all of this. So like there happens to be something we got to align with. But as far as the different types of law out there, yes, I believe that has to be an agreement. What I'm trying to get people to acknowledge is that all of those people that are running the courts and the government and all of that systems are all in agreement theoretically that they are, one, under maritime law, and two, have taken an oath to uphold the Constitution.
Yeah.
So between those two constructs should be enough for if the people understand that, should be enough for any given individual to make sure that whatever public servant they're needing to deal with is within the guidelines and the scope of the law.
So, so we can protect ourselves by buying the book, reading the book, learning about certain things from the book that can help you. We'll emphasize it
everybody
again.
needs this book. I'm telling you, it's coming. And if you don't prepare
Because we're
now,
in it right now. we're in it,
Yeah.
baby.
yes,
Yeah, the
Uh,
soup, the temperature of the soup is definitively being turned up.
oh yeah, no, absolutely. The heat is on, and we're all, you know,
Get
if
this
you
book
don't
and
know
learn how
how
to
to
protect
protect
yourself right
yourself,
now.
then
That's what I gotta say. Get this book and learn how to protect your shit right now, because if you don't, then it's like who knows when they're gonna do some bait and switch and start taking people's stuff away.
yeah. I mean, look, the First Amendment is being, freedom of speech. You can't even talk anymore. It's amazing.
Well, yeah, well, okay, so I heard these arguments out there on social media, blah blah blah. Those are private agencies. Those are not private agencies. Those are public utilities. They're not public utilities per se. They're public companies that are traded openly on the stock market. They're part of the public sector, and if they're part of the public sector, they're extensions of. They're also vessels of the United States corporation, which means the United States corporation could clamp down on those things in a heartbeat.
Yeah, of course.
if they wanted to.
If they
Exactly. If they
follow the
wanted to.
thread, if they followed the law thread directly through, that those are extensions of the United States corporation, vessels of the United States. So just because they're doing business in the United States, they are subject to the Constitution, and they do have to protect freedom of speech. They are in violation because they are public companies.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're not private companies. They don't have the right to say no.
So
Technically,
I'm gonna put this one up because this one's gonna be good.
My favorite slide.
You want to read it? Forgot again.
When all the guns have been banned, when all the words have been censored, when all the history has been erased, when all the freedom has been taken, only then you will discover you should have gotten off your ass and done something about it.
And that's buying this book.
this is
You know.
yeah. This is what very basically the state that America is in right now.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of people out there that have been asking their questions and getting the answers, getting bits and pieces. There's a lot of moving parts to this. It's almost everything, but for them to see how the dots connect, right? That could take lifetimes. Fortunately, I've kind of got a lifetime in on this, and that's what we're putting here in the book is like, okay, all these dots. What are these dots? These little things that you make you wonder,
Yeah.
how do they all connect, and what is this? How does this fit together? You ask all the questions about the the matrix, right? The matrix side of things. What is the matrix and all of that? I don't even want to get into it on this radio show. Then on the other side, you ask all the questions of what is the strong man? How do they control us using the birth certificate? What's the meaning of what's the meaning of money? What are all these
George
things?
is he's having a flashback because this is one of the shows that we did earlier.
We did an
back
earlier
in
show
whatever it
about
was
this.
in like June or July, whatever it was.
Yeah.
About
Yeah.
the strong man. But go ahead. Sorry.
So these are and what do you do? How do you apply this? How do you apply it to your life, and how do you apply it in the field, interacting with other people, and how would it be applied in the courtroom? Well, how do these things factor? How do you properly create a record for the court?
Right.
If you have to use paperwork to do litigation, stuff like that. Those are all the questions everybody asks. It's like, well, we've got to have some place where we can just, here's your handbook, the
Mhm.
Courtroom Revolution Handbook. And it's the way I believe that we can all defend American freedom.
Absolutely. And I think that you're on the right track. When did this book come out, by the way?
Well, this is the most recent version style of this book. I just recently published this version in like about mid-September.
Okay.
The underground version of this has been floating around for a good 10 years.
Oh wow.
The beta version, right, to test the quality
Sure.
of the material delivery and all that. But this is the complete with an index of all of the laws that apply. And it's got the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, the Pledge of Allegiance, Americans Creed. It's got a whole breakdown of kind of the history of the secret orders that have been pretty much controlling the world from behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Pretty much all the questions people are asking in a relative synopsis that's applicable. You can use it.
It's really all about we the people, and I think once the people understand that again, because throughout the years you've lost all contact with that because people get into their lives and who's working, who's doing this, 5 jobs, all this other
And
stuff.
propaganda, all of that is just a result of propaganda. All that shattering of families and working 5 jobs and all that stuff. That's also part of the entire infiltration and attempted disintegration of American culture.
Right. Right.
You
Right.
know,
Well, I tell you, I think you're on the mark here, and I wish you a lot of luck with the book, and I think that the book is really going to serve a purpose for people out there that really need to know what to do in certain situations that they might not know. The lawyer is not always the best option,
Yeah,
because
before you
they're
get
working
this-
for the man. They're working for the man.
learn how to privatize your life and privatize your estate, privatize your properties before you ever get into a situation, because it's like, oh, how do you back out of a situation? It's a lot harder than getting
Yeah.
they're not getting into one in the first place. And
Yeah.
that's pretty much why I put this together, so that you have it ahead of time. And you don't have to go, oh, I gotta Google, what do I gotta do? I don't know. And it's, this is just the easy
Yeah.
way.
What is it called?
You know,
YouTube
ask
University. I think that's what it's called.
Hindsight is
ask your lawyer. Have you ever seen? Tell him out there. Ask your lawyer if he's sworn allegiance to you, or has he sworn allegiance to the state in which he's licensed to
Yeah.
practice.
Exactly.
Ask him that question. See if he can respond.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Well, I'll tell you, guys, thank you so much for joining me tonight on Buzz Talk Live show. And
pleasure.
and it was great to go through some of the book anyway. I mean, it's really just a tease of what is in it. And really everybody should go out there and buy this book, because it's really going to help the common man, common person, and it'll do some good for a lot of people. So
Thanks,
Yeah.
George.
you
Thank
got it.
you. It's again for having us on your show. Really, really nice to get connected with you.
Yeah, same here, man. Same here, and best of luck with the book, and best of luck, going forward. Hopefully, we'll get back to work someday. All right.
Celebrate me, man.
See you
Have a
later,
great
guys. All right. Be good.
Take care.
Oh boy, that was a full litany of information tonight, and I'm so glad that they joined me tonight and gone through this book. It really it shows us as a country and as us as citizens that you have to take control of your own your life and know what to do in certain situations. So best of luck to a private citizen who made that book. Hey, get ready. Join me on Sunday night. This is going to be good. I got a motion picture aerial helicopter pilot, a stunt cameraman that's coming on the show. His name is Fred North. He is the real deal. He's done tons of action movies, and he's amazing. So stick around for that show Sunday night at 8:30 p.m. It's my new time, 8:30 p.m. And check in on Fred North, motion picture helicopter stunt cameraman pilot. Wow. So tune in there at 8:30 p.m. on Sunday night. That's all for Buzz Talk Live tonight, and see you on Sunday. Ciao.